and they're off.
Bubble bobble. You blow bubbles, and then you pop them.
Bobble.
Yes, you bubble, then you bobble.
Is that a bobble when you pop a bubble? Is it the bobble of bubble bobble? I don't know.
A bobble is the term that they use when you screw up something in snowboarding, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a word just in general. Like,
you can bobble
if
a
you were,
catch.
yeah, if someone threw a ball at you and you were kind of like whoa 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 whoa, and you were dancing around from one hand to the other.
I see.
And
So
that would be
anything like
bobbling.
sportsy that you screw up could be a bobble, huh?
Yeah, it's generally it like frantic motions to keep something in the air.
Is bobbling?
Yeah. In this case, I think it's just a word that sounds like bubble.
That sounds good with bubble.
Well, aren't the main
Bubble
characters' names Bub and Bob?
Bob and Bob.
Bub and Bob, yep.
Ah, there you go.
Gotta pay attention to the lore of this game. It's super important.
But it could have been Bub and Babs, and then call it Bubble Babble.
I could have called it Bible Buffet, but that name was already taken.
Oh yeah, that's a shame.
Okay,
It
so
works perfectly.
Bubble Bobble it's a maybe not quite obvious what they're doing here. If you haven't played the game before, this probably doesn't make a lot of sense. But each of these stages, there's like 120 stages in the game. You're only going to be seeing 5 stages in this goal, 31 through 35, I think. Is that it?
30 through 34.
That's 30 through 34. Yeah, that's right. It's the other one that's shifted up. Okay, yeah, 30 through 34. So you're going to see 5 stages. And each of the stages, a certain number of enemies in it. A fixed number of enemies. They all spawn right at the beginning, so you see all the enemies. And you have to shoot each one of them with your bubble thingy, which encases that enemy in a bubble. And then you have to pop each of the bubbles that you've put an enemy into. And the bubbles will kind of drift around the screen. There are like invisible air currents. Each square has got sort of like a vector of which direction you would move to, which direction a bubble would move to if it was in that square. So they sort of float around the screen in a certain pattern that's different from in each level. So all the levels have completely different air current patterns. If you get clusters of bubbles clumped together, you can pop them all at once by touching any of the bubbles in that cluster. Let's see, any enemy that's in a bubble for too long will come out of his bubble and turn back into a normal enemy again, except he'll be like red colored and moving really fast, very aggressive version of that enemy. There's a certain amount of time you have to complete each level. If you don't do it fast enough, there'll be it'll say hurry, and there'll be a little whale that appears. So he chases you around, and that's bad. He's got a name, right?
Baron von Blubba, I think is
Baron
his
von
name.
Blubber.
Baron von
Yeah.
Blubber.
All right,
Blubble
so
bubble.
wait a minute. So when is this goal over?
It's after 35 actually.
After
It's 31. This one is
35.
31.
Okay,
to
I was gonna
35.
say you guys are like confusing the hell out of me.
okay, yeah,
Yeah, it's 31 through
We're
35.
good.
It's 31 through 35 in this. So after 35, once you start to bubble up to enter the next level, that's when you split. So there's there's 120 levels, like 100 levels in the normal game, and then I think there's 20 bonus levels or 20 special levels or something like that. It's a pretty long game. They're doing just 5 levels. They're probably going to take about 2-ish minutes, 2 or so minutes. One of the things that makes this a little more interesting is that there are different items that you can get. They're starting with none of the power-up items, but there are different power-ups that you can get that you'll collect, and they persist from level to level, but they go away if you die. One of them is the blue candy, which that's the one that lets you fire 2 bubbles at once, right?
The blue candy lets you shoot them further.
Oh, that's the long
Green-
distance. Okay, and green
yeah,
candy
green
is
candy lets you fire them faster.
right.
And then there's the running shoes as well.
Yes,
You'd
and then
think
the running shoes
shoes
make you go
would be,
fast.
Like super key for a speedrun. But they're so hard to control. You go so fast that a lot of players were kind of like, I don't know about these shoes.
Yeah, and one of the things that makes the running shoes difficult is it makes your jump, the vertical speed of your jump increases, so you'll go up and then down a lot faster, but it doesn't increase your horizontal speed while you're in the air. So it actually makes it more difficult to make certain jumps because you spend less time in the air covering the same, like, you know, less vertical distance, or I'm sorry, less horizontal distance because your horizontal speed is slowed down compared to your jump, your vertical speed. It's really weird. But for a speed run, you know, truly optimal speed run, you do need the shoes.
All right, I just submitted my first run.
Cool. All right. Well, we've got, what was it, a 227 from BassguitarBill, which is actually a 226.87, and Zyre's got a 149.85. So Zyre's in first place so far. Countdown's got a 158 that we're still working on getting the timing for. And this Neosporin's 145, is that from within the match, or was that before it?
Nope, that's within it.
That's within it.
That's
Okay,
one I
so
just-
so he's got that one just submitted, and we'll have the official timing for that in a moment as well. But that looks like right now it's going to be probably Neosporin in first place. We'll have to get the official word back from Mythical when he's done timing.
Yeah, I accidentally sent 2 files. I wasn't sure which one was it.
Yeah, if you would.
Someone getting a call.
That
Yeah.
that was me. That was my bad.
Interrupting the RoboCop title screen music,
Yes, how dare you?
which has to play every episode. It's our theme, our unofficial theme song. It's got kind of a melancholy feel to it. It might make a good ending song for this, right? If we, like, for an outro theme.
Well, I mean, maybe if someone died during the show, sure, but
Well, you're supposed to be
Otherwise,
sad
it's
because it's
good.
over.
no, you don't want to. You don't want to leave people with this sad. You don't know what you're doing.
Wow.
It's a good thing I'm around so that we can go truly broad appeal, get all the views.
Nobody knows people like Mythical does.
Yeah.
That was almost a PR disaster we had on our hands.
All right. I think everyone has runs on the board now.
Let me just refresh so we can get the latest set of them. There we go. So here's what the boards look like after the initial set of runs have come in. Neosporin in first with 145, Zyre in second at 149, Countdown at 158, and BassguitarBill at 226.
Yeah.
So we've got 3 out of 4 of these, sub 2. This is a relatively short goal, but it is harder than it looks. The enemies' patterns are predictable. The enemies will always follow the same pattern. I don't think there's any RNG in this game as far as I can tell, but sometimes the enemies'
No.
patterns are dependent on where you move.
That's what I was about to say.
Yeah, so you do have to play consistently if you want to get consistent, you know, predictable enemy patterns. But there's technically not RNG that I know of in this goal.
None that matters anyway. I think if you kill a bunch of guys, you'll get letters that spell out the word extend, and then if you complete that, you'll immediately end the level and get an extra life. But the animation for going through the whole process is quite long, so you need to do it really early on in a level for it to save time, and also the players don't have any letters, and the only way to make them appear is to kill multiple enemies at the same time. So they're not going to get it, basically.
Yeah.
Even if they got super perfect luck and came up with really great strats for killing enemies, clumps of enemies all at the same time, they're not going to get the whole word. So
Right,
RNG
and
should
it's-
not be a big deal.
Right, yeah, it's definitely not worth it because you have to go out of your way to get those letters. You know, you don't just automatically get it. It just means the letter will spawn, and it might have the letter that you need, or it might be one that you don't need, and then you got to walk over there and get it. So that's not going to happen in this run. What do you think is the hardest one of this set?
Hardest one for me to do well is the third one on the second goal.
Oh, in the second goal? What about in this first goal?
I'd say level
33 has the
33.
hardest route to get perfect.
33? Alright, that's the pinkish
Yeah.
one with these diagonal stripes.
Oh yeah, that one's
like
a little finicky.
Yeah. I die more often on 35.
Yeah, Bubble Bobble's a weird game in that you can jump up through any platform, but you can't move horizontally through any platform.
Any.
Yeah, so it leads to these weird situations where you can jump up into these little rooms, but you can't move sideways through them, and you can sort of blow bubbles and from sort of one side of it and get things that are in. Yeah, it's really bizarre, and you need to use that to take out at least 2 of these guys on 33. So I can see why that would be a big reset for lots of people.
Yeah, so there's a couple tricky things about this level 33 here, and one of them is just trying to jump up and time it so you can hit these guys who are going back and forth inside these little cells that are hidden inside the wall there. That's a little tricky.
Oh, that was an extra.
Another interesting technique in this game is if you shoot an enemy when it's right about to touch you, when it's already colliding with your hitbox, you bubble them and then pop the bubble at the same time. And that's kind of a nice little time savings. It means you don't have to chase the bubble around. The way popping bubbles works is you can walk into a bubble and it'll push the bubble. It doesn't just pop it when you touch the bubble. You have to actually hit it with a certain amount of velocity in order to get inside the thing's hitbox enough to pop it instead of just push it. So sometimes there's a bit of struggling with trying to pop a bubble. So hopefully we can minimize that.
Yeah, you end up just pushing it around the level, and you're like, God damn it!
Right, or you're like jumping and you push it up out of the way where you can't reach it anymore.
Yeah, I lost a good run just now from that.
That's what the shoes help that. The shoe power-up makes you go so fast that you can pop things from the side very easily, just running into it.
Right, and up and down as well, because the vertical part of your jump speed is increased.
Yeah, it's a lot harder to push a bubble upwards without popping it. It's got to be like right at the top of your jump.
Yeah.
But it can happen.
It definitely can. Another handy technique is jumping on bubbles, bouncing on them to reach stuff. But most of these goals that we have, there's not a lot of that. Some of the goals, or some of the levels, are completely built around that mechanic, and it's all about, you know, making it as challenging as possible to hop on bubbles to reach ledges. But those levels are kind of annoying and slow, so I don't think we've got any of those in here.
35
no,
kind of does.
You have to do it a little bit to get up to the second floor. Fortunately, only a little bit.
Yeah, you're right. You do. You have to do it at least once to get up there.
Yeah, I guess 33 in some cases you might need to do it. So we should talk about these power-ups. You mentioned what the different candies do. Blue candy was the one that gives you more distance.
Yep.
I get confused every time. Yeah, why don't I look up what the number of pops or bounces or whatever, because I keep forgetting this.
I believe
It's
it's
15
35 for the candies and 15 for the shoes.
Yeah, it's 35, but I can't remember which one's pop and which one's bounce.
Blues pop, shoes are bounce, and then one of them
Green candy is blown.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think that's what it is.
low.
Right.
Just for the viewers who might not know what the hell we're talking
Right,
about.
I'm just bringing this up.
The power-ups are tied to actions you take. If you blow 35 bubbles, then on the next level a green candy will spawn. If you pop 35, on the next level a blue candy will spawn. And if you bounce on a bubble 15 times, on the next level shoes will spawn. And there's a certain priority to them. I think it goes shoes, green, blue. And there's also the counters save between levels. You can bounce on 7 times on one level and 8 on another, and then that will get you enough for the shoes on the following level. For this goal, I believe all the counters start at 0.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So it's pretty difficult to get power-ups. We were kind of hoping, giving players kind of like a low percent goal here, and then, you know, if they could figure out a way to get 35 pops or blows or whatever, then more power to them. But
Yep, I've seen some candies appear. I think I saw a green candy appearing level 3 in Zyre's right now in Zyre's stream. The candies, or all the power-ups, they always appear in a certain fixed spot in the level, and they'll appear after about maybe 10 seconds of the level being spawned. Whenever you make one of those triggers, like X number of popped or blown or bounced bubbles, the power-up won't appear until the next level. And also you can only get 1 power-up per level, so if you've triggered 2 things, let's say you've blown 35 bubbles, which would give you a green candy for rapid fire, and you've popped 35 bubbles, which would give you blue candy for long range, it actually will only give you one or the other. Like there's a priority system. I think green candy is the one it prioritizes in that situation.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, and so really, it won't come into play in this goal, but in the next goal where they actually start with some stuff on the counters, and they can get some power-ups, the order that you get them in matters, and so they're going to want to be careful about, you know, which power-ups they get when. There's also another power-up, the Umbrella, which lets you skip stages. It'll let you skip between 3 and 5 stages, which is determined randomly. And you get that by popping water bubbles. You have to pop 20 water bubbles. I don't remember if there's actually water bubbles in this goal at all.
This one, no.
No, the other one has some, right? Yeah. But either way, neither of the goals was going to be enough of them to actually use the umbrellas, so you won't see umbrellas in this. But if you're watching a normal, like an any percent run of this, or a good ending run, or whatever, you're definitely going to see umbrellas. That's going to be a huge part of it, and a huge source of RNG in a true speedrun of this. Anything else that you see, any other power-up like thing that you see is just points. Those necklaces, all the fruits, any other random items that appear, points. Besides the letters that we've explained to spell the word extend. You're also going to see fire bubbles and lightning bubbles. Those, neither of them will hurt you, but they will hurt enemies, so they're actually very useful if they appear in the right spot and you can use them at the right time. Also, when you beat a stage, the end of stage trigger, it takes about maybe 7 seconds, 8 seconds maybe, after the enemies are all finished before it actually lets you move down to the next stage. So that's a lot of waiting time. And that timer doesn't start until you've popped the last enemy's bubble, and that enemy's body has fallen to the ground and turned into a fruit or a power-up or whatever it turns into. Only at that point in time does it matter, or does the timer start, and it doesn't matter what you do past that point. But trying to minimize that amount of time it takes for the last enemy's body to hit the ground is maybe a little bit beyond the level of strategy we're going to get to in this, because it has to do with exactly where the enemy is when you hit him, and it controls which way he's going to fly, etc. Another thing to remember is that you want to be sort of near the lower left corner of the screen, because you will bubble down to the next level and it'll move you at sort of an accelerated rate, but not fast enough that it wouldn't have to wait for you if you were in the opposite corner of the screen, for instance. So generally you'll see these guys trying to be in the lower left quadrant of the level when it finishes.
Yeah, I wasted about 2 days not realizing that.
Yeah, because it will wait for you. You do move faster than usual, so you can get almost, like, you don't, it doesn't even have to be the lower left quadrant. I think, like, the lower left 80% of the screen is enough, but yeah, just don't be too far to the top or to the right. We're at about 9.5 minutes left on the clock.
Oh god.
If we had any new runs in that, I see. Oh yeah, we had a couple. Yeah, Neo's down to 142.44. Zyre at 143.47. And Bill's brought his time down a bunch, 2:14.
I never even broke 2 in practice, so don't. I guess don't expect much.
We've had people who really surprised themselves and, you know, PB'd multiple times during the matches, so we'll see.
That is what I'm counting on.
Yeah. What is your PB, by the way?
207? 207, I think.
Okay.
The first event, and 205 for the second.
Some people in this situation have opted to, instead of actually playing, just watch the other streams for a while and then copy some strats and then
Get
play.
some strats and then go.
Yep.
I had a week to do that. I had a week I should have been doing that, but maybe. Haven't gotten a really good run yet, so we'll wait for that.
So I don't know if we've really talked about how these goals are very heavy on the routing, basically. There's not a lot of video resources for this game that are, for one, just one player. I mean, a lot of the speedruns for this game are done 2-player.
2-player, yeah.
And,
It's because that's the one that Andy, who was it, did this? I think Andy did it. And 4H.
Yeah, he was in chat earlier.
Oh yeah.
Saying something about Bubble.
South and his brother, I think, were the ones who ran this, who were the first that I know of to run this game co-op, and there's actually more co-op speedruns that I could find than regular speedruns. In fact, even when Darkwing was working on this, he was doing like second player version of it because he was practicing for the co-op for AGDQ. Or SGDQ,
Yeah.
I mean.
And that matters because you spawn in the other side of the screen.
Yeah, which totally changes your route. Because it's all about, you know, the enemies all spawn the same way and they walk the same direction, so just finding the shortest path to hitting all of them and popping their bubbles. It's actually quite challenging because you're cutting it really close.
It's a bit like this first level even, 31. You know, you think, okay, well, I should get up there sooner and start bubbling them. But one, if you're up there for too long on the same level as them, all of them will pause and like do a little jump and sync. It's really silly, but it wastes a bunch of time. If you bubble them and you don't pop them, their bubbles are now up at the top of the screen, and the rest of them are going down the screen and they're splitting apart. That takes time to get to both sides and to take them all out. So, you know, do you wait for them all to come down? Do you try to get up there and get some of them? And there's a lot of little tiny things that all the players had to kind of figure out. And that's the reason why no one's really doing the exact same thing on any level, it looks like. You know, a lot of similarities, but definitely small differences all around. How are we doing on time? I bet there's not too much. They got about 5 minutes left.
Yep, we got about 5 minutes left, and it's extremely close between the first and the second players here. So keep an eye out, because this could be This could be a game that's determined by, or a match that's determined by one of the last runs. We've had a lot of those lately.
Oh, this could be good. It takes a while for those enemies to fall, and it takes even longer for the screen to start scrolling. Oh, wow, it's gonna be close.
Okay, wow, it looks like Zyre is... Man, I don't know.
I'll get to time.
We've got a 143 on the manual splits. Mythical's gonna time that and see how it compares, but just looking at the manual splits, about a half a second slower than Neo's time, but we don't know for sure.
How much time do we have on the clock?
4:08.
Wow.
Yeah, that time flew by, didn't it?
Always does.
Yeah.
I just had a really good run. I don't know what it is yet, though.
Okay.
Zyre's run is about a half second behind Neosporin's best run, although that may be a little bit of a bigger gap. We'll see.
Yeah, now that's a moot point
Yeah, it
because Neo's quite clearly like in the
Yeah.
140 range.
Yeah, that actually is probably within a half second of my TB, or even better than it. I'm not sure.
Nice. Alright, well now Neosporin has increased his lead to over 2 seconds. Wow. Very close.
His 33 route is so different than mine. Oh, that's backwards.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways to do these levels, and many of them perfectly acceptable speedrun routes, so I was really interested to see what routes people would choose for this. Because everyone really had to come up with their own routes. There really weren't routes that they could borrow from existing speedruns, because they're starting with no items, so this is really new territory. Maybe someday if someone does a low percent bubble run, it will be, you know, some strategies will be found, but they might look back on this episode and borrow some strats from it. I don't know.
Oops.
We're getting down under 2 minutes. It's 144 left on the clock, so this is about the, you know, one run distance away from the timing running out.
Oh, come on.
Had
That was
enemy
the
that
enemy
ended up
died
falling.
and yeah, wrapped all the way around the screen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, these screens will wrap at the top and the bottom, and sometimes it's to your advantage, and sometimes it trolls you because, you know, enemy bubbles will float up the top and come out the bottom, or you'll end up accidentally going through the ceiling. Yeah, it can be a problem. So as we get down towards the end, this is where the strategy maybe starts to change a little bit, because players can't reset anymore once the clock runs out. Once the clock runs out, they've got to finish out whatever run they're in the middle of doing, so sometimes the players will try to change their strategy a little bit to sort of see how far their runs get before they want to take their last moment reset. I'm not really sure which level's the real sticking point in this, though.
Oh, I'm splitting so early.
It's definitely 33.
Well, and I saw there was a difference in 34 as well, so...
Wow. Alright, well, timing is up here, so if if anybody wants to reset, now is your last chance to do it. Otherwise, you must stick with this run, and that's it. Window of opportunity is closed, so last reset. Neo, since you just got your run in just right before I said that, you're welcome to do one
No,
more.
I'm fine. I will. That one was within a 100th of a second or 10th of a second, and I'm satisfied with the 140.
Okay. So now we're in sudden death mode. The players, if they chose to reset, are stuck with their... Well, either way, they're stuck with their run.
Looks like pretty much just Zyre and Bill have live runs going.
Alright.
Mine's game over.
Oh, that's too bad, because you were already... Yeah, that 1.5 seconds up from your splits, that could have put you within range, but...
Yeah, it would have put me closer, but it wouldn't have been enough.
Wow. Well, that was a hard-fought match. Cool.
Look at all these passwords. They're so different.
I think the did this passwords carry over anything besides what level you're on?
I think it's just level.
Yeah, so
I think it's just level.
it must just be
level
that you
and
died in
power.
different stages.
Probably.
Okay. Well, so that's it for match one. We have Neosporin taking first place with a 140 and Zyre right behind him with a 142 in second. Countdown at 157 in third place, and BassguitarBill's best time with 214. Our next match is going to be Ninja Gaiden 3, which was the mystery game. Switch over to it.
Players have had a whopping 1 hour to learn how to speedrun this, was level 3-2? 3-2A? 2-3-2D or something?
Just all of 3-2.
All 3-2 minus the boss.
The boss is actually 3-3A.
Excellent. So yeah, we reveal the mystery game to the players about an hour before the match starts, so they only have 60 minutes to practice this, as opposed to the Bubble, which they got a week to work on. So a little bit different mode of attack here. Really, this is just a test of how fast people can route new material and, you know, pick up a game. And
So
we're
we
gonna
gave the
bring-
players 7 different games to vote on for their mystery game. We don't just stick them with Ninja Gaiden and say, haha, screw you, you have to do the hard game.
That's how it felt.
Yeah, they all get to vote. And you can even veto certain games, but apparently just based off the way, you know, someone would veto a game that most other people liked, and that sort of thing, and we ended up with Ninja Gaiden.
Ninja Gaiden hype.
Yes.
Everybody else had speedrunning experience?
No, we just vetoed the other games.
Yep. And we've got our expert commentator here, InfestedRiche is here.
Hello.
Baby.
Yeah. Gonna give us the inside scoop. Rich is the world record holder for this game.
Yep. So try not to embarrass yourselves.
Great, you're messing up my game now. The pressure's on.
Cool. Alright, does everyone get their script set up? Waiting for one person. I added a little text crawl to explain the rules, but we got a very busy screen today because I also have another crawl for the follow the new channel thing.
It is a little I just
It
kind
is
of looked at it.
pretty busy right now.
It's a little overwhelming.
Yeah.
Got the Skype thing. It was this timer, best times, game name, episode, match 2.
Yep. And it's a
Four
long game name.
screens,
Possibly
all
the
these
longest
names.
game we've had.
Oh man.
Alright, so does everybody... Looks like everyone's got their script up. Are all the players ready to start?
Yes.
Yep.
Or is anybody not
sir.
ready to start?
Ready to go.
Alright, cool. Well, without further ado, let's get this thing going. I'm going to count you guys down. 3, 2, 1...